Good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the SMP Capacity Building Training webinar series. My name is Irina Gordeladze and I will be moderating the webinar. Today we will be presenting Module 5, the Future of SMPs, Practice, Marketing and Communications. We'll examine how to grow and market your practice. Paul Thompson, Director of European Federation of Accountants and Auditors for SMEs, and a WorldBank consultant, will be joined by a special guest, Mike Crook, Managing Director of PracticeWeb. From Mike's presentation, you will learn how to grow your practice through marketing. Natalie Manuilova, Senior Financial Management Specialist from the WorldBank, will open today's webinar. Dear Natalie, over to you, please.
Thank you, dear Irina. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Good afternoon. And on behalf of the World Bank, I am very happy to greet you today at this event. This event continues a series of events that the World Bank, in partnership with various professional development organizations, have developed to small and medium practices in Georgia and in larger regions of Europe and Central Asia under the ongoing cooperation with the European Union. We at the World Bank are looking forward to help your practices to strive and develop and adapt to new challenges that these times bring. With the change in times like today, the practices need to adjust to new challenges and look for new services. And today's session is best fit to answer your questions on how to do it. Mike Crook is a specialist in his field, so you will not only learn from him, but you can also ask questions that you may have in the process. And I hope we have time to answer them today. If not, we'll follow up separately. With the change in landscape of audit and accounting services in the world, the response that comes from businesses is very favorable. The businesses, especially small and medium businesses, are looking for new services and new advice on how to adapt to change in environment. And small and medium accounting firms have tools, capacity, and potential to answer these challenges. So to position your practice and reach to your prospective clients, special marketing tools must be applied and the new marketing strategies tried. So I'm very happy that we have Mike today with us, and Mike together with Paul will be taking this session forward. So without further ado and taking your time, I'm handing over back to Paul to do the proper introduction of how the session will run, and then over to Mike to make the presentation. Again, thank you very much. And on behalf of the World Bank, I hope you enjoy and have a productive session.
Many thanks, Natalie. Many thanks, Irina, for getting us started today. So yeah, this is the introduction today. I'm just going to say a few words to set the scene and create a little bit of context for today's presentation, which is coming to you from Mike Crook, the Chief Executive Officer or Managing Director, as is often called in the UK, of PracticeWeb. And he's going to be spending the bulk of the time running through his slides. But by way of introduction, what I want to do is to just recap on a few things that we've covered thus far since this series of webinars commenced in February of this year. You'll recall that I introduced you to the Practice Transformation Action Plan, a roadmap to the future. And this is a publication of the International Federation of Accountants. The opening presentation that we gave back in February, we went through this action plan, and it basically set out sort of 4 key aspects to the transformation of practices going forward. And to a large extent, this all still stands despite COVID-19. In fact, COVID-19 most probably has accelerated the need for this practice transformation. Now, one of the 4 elements on the screen in front of you, the one that's in bold, is the need for firms to evolve their operating model and to build advisory services. And this action plan goes into this in a little bit more detail. And you'll be pleased to know that if you click through the links, there is actually it will take you through to the Georgian translation of this practice transformation action plan. I believe a Russian one is in the works. This fourth element of building advisory services, you'll see that there's various steps or initiatives that practices are encouraged to undertake. And the second one that you can see on the slide in front of you in bold is to reevaluate the services that the practice provides, and also to take a deeper look at their marketing and promotional strategies. I think if a small practice is planning to build advisory services, then it's incumbent upon them to develop the ability to market and promote these services. Oftentimes it's going to involve reaching out to new clients as opposed to just working with the current crop of clients. So marketing and promotion is absolutely critical, and for that reason today we have Mike to take us through intelligent marketing for accountants. Over to you, Mike.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate that. I've just requested access to use the slides, so perfect. Well, thank you, Paul, for inviting me to talk about marketing today, and hello to everybody who's listening. Hopefully you can take away a fair bit from this session and these slides, and by all means fire some questions over, because it's hopefully it'll be a nice interactive session. So if you've got any marketing questions, feel free to pose them, and I'm sure, Paul, you're going to have some questions along the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to see if I can go to the next slide. Oh, did I do that? Hang on, there's a bit of a lag. There you go. So just why am I here, and I guess some credentials from me, what I'm about. So probably the last 20 years, to be fair, not just 19, 20 years. I've worked in digital marketing and product development for accounting, banking, finance, and as you can see on the screen there, some of the sort of world's big brands, and I've helped them really with their positioning from a market point of view, and also from ticked over there for some strange reason. Can't seem to get back. It's kind of going all over the place. Slight technical hitch. There we go. So from me, so helping people with their go-to-market strategies, pricing, positioning, all of those sorts of things. But really what we're here to talk today is about my expertise in digital marketing. So as the next slide suggests here, I work for PracticeWeb. And maybe you'll be pleased today because it's not a sales pitch. We don't work with anybody outside the UK. So that may be a shame when you come to the end of this presentation, you want to work with us, but actually we only deal with accountants in the UK. But it is all about accounting, and we know that the challenges across the world, and that's, Paul and I had this conversation, and it's not just the UK, it's across the world really. We shift to advisory services, so that's what I'm here to talk to you about. But we deliver strategy, marketing strategy for our clients. We do lots of insight, and you're going to see a lot of that insight today. Because we work with so many firms, we track all the marketing data across these firms, and we get insights and benchmarks, and we understand the data and the performance around marketing, not only to help our clients optimize what they do, but to report back on benchmarks. So we know how many visits to a website you should be getting, for example, how many conversions you should be getting, for example, which really helps understand the value and the return on investment of marketing. So I brought some of those to life today, which you'll see. Here's the first slide, just to give you a sense of the types of performance that clients get when they work with us. So we typically see when they switch to us that we give them a 20% increase in traffic to their website over a 5-month period. More importantly, we give them a 30% increase on conversions from their website as well. So the inquiries coming into their business. What we also see on average across all the firms that we work with, they get about 22 inquiries every month from the marketing activity that we do. So worth checking what you're getting from your marketing currently, worth checking what you're getting from your website, and do they match these? Are you getting good return on investment?
Mike,
Yes.
Sorry, if I can just interrupt for 1 second. Can you speak a little bit slower, because we have a simultaneous translation going on, and it may be difficult for translators to capture what you're saying.
Yeah, that is a fault of mine, speaking fast. So thank you for thank you for pointing that out. Okay, so this is what we're going to cover. So we've got 4 points, and the 4 points that we're going to be covering is, in the first instance, who are the clients that we're trying to attract? So who do we want to attract to the marketing activity we're doing? Then we're going to look at the buying decisions of those ideal clients. And then we're going to move on to how do we actually use the marketing tactics and strategies to actually attract them. And then, of course, the most important part here is how do we measure it? How do we know it's working? And how can we optimize its performance? So the first element of this is marketing. What are the actual benefits of doing it? And perhaps if you're watching today and you haven't really invested in marketing, or you're new to it, or you're doing it, but you're not quite getting the traction that you'd hoped, hopefully this can sort of convince you a little bit. What I love about this particular report, it's from a company called Millward Brown. It's their Brand Z report, worth Googling Millward Brown, the Brand Z report, seeing what that's about. But what this graph shows us is Millward Brown, the Brand Z report, tracks a lot of companies across the globe. Not only does it track their commercial performance, but it also tracks their traits and what their customers believe are strong traits, or they have or they don't have. And what this report allows us to do is see actually how those characteristics and traits of these particular brands affects their commercial growth. And what you can see on the blue line is actually what they found is that firms with certain characteristics actually bounced back a lot quicker, 9 times, as it says here, from the financial crash in 2008. And they all found that they had specific characteristics. So given that we've just gone through a pandemic and we're all coming out the end of that, and I'm sure some of your clients' businesses may have felt the pinch of that, and even yourselves may have felt the pinch of that. It's really important that actually we learn from history and we look at these sorts of things and go, okay, what can we do to learn from them? So I'm going to talk a little bit more now about what actually makes a strong brand from the customers of these businesses that have obviously bounced back 9 times quicker than others. What they found is that actually not just with a strong brand, that somebody with a real point of difference grew 124% quicker in the years following the financial crash because they had a really strong point of difference. So here what we're looking at really is a strong brand, which I'll talk about more in a sec, but also a really clear point of difference. And I know for many firms that can be challenging, selling the same services, often to the same sectors, but it can be done. And we do it a lot with our clients, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about how you can start to do that as well. So what does a strong brand look like? Here are the core elements that that the Millward Brown report suggests, and I've also written a blog about that, which I know unfortunately is a very sort of dark blue at the bottom there, but if you, we can probably share those links afterwards. You needed to create an emotional connection with your clients, and that is incredibly important, to create an emotional connection. We're dealing with people, we're all emotional lots, and that's what needs to convey and come through from your marketing and your brand. More on that later. And an authentic point of difference in the market, and authenticity is incredibly important, certainly when it comes to doing business and in marketing, because actually the authenticity, you can't fake it. You have to be authentic. And if you are a sole practitioner, you are your own person. If you're saying one thing on the website or in your marketing, they pick up the phone and you're completely different, then they're going to find that out. So you do need to be authentic. Nice thing is you should be passionate about that authenticity too. You really need to have a clear purpose, because that'll accelerate growth, not just purpose from a marketing perspective, but a really strong purpose as a business. And then what you have is they needed to protect their budget. So following that 2008 financial crash, they didn't stop spending on marketing. Sure, they were much wiser on their spend, but they didn't stop because they realized that they needed to be visible in market. So they protected that budget. They also built up trust with their target clients, and emotional connection, authenticity, all of these things build up trust, and that's really important. And they also had a voice. They didn't fall silent. So you need to be out. Marketing is not a one-time deal. It is a consistent thing. You need to be out there. You need to be pruning it. You need to always be out in market, being visible. I'm going to help you do some of that stuff in a bit, and we're going to talk more about that. So how do you go about building that brand and that reputation and that authority and visibility? Well, what we do and we help clients with is understand three things. One is you need to understand what people are saying about you in the market. Now, Paul mentioned a good point earlier around making some of the shifts to advisory. So perhaps in the market, you're known as a compliance firm, and all you're producing currently is compliance work, but you really want to start selling advisory services. You're going to need to change the reputation of your firm in the market. So that's an area that you'll need to work on, if that's the case. And then you think about visibility. How well known are you to your current audience or to your new client base that you're going after, if it's an advisory space? So the visibility is important. And that visibility is about being visible on social media, in search engines, and other areas that you need to be visible in. Then it's about your expertise. So what are you known for? And the important part here is, again, if you're making a switch from compliance to advisory, do people know that you're an expert in that? If not, you're going to have to work on it. So it's about tweaking these three areas to know where you are now to where you want to be, and start working on those and chipping away at them. There we go. So what's the advantage of building a strong brand? You can move away from competing on price. I know this is a massive topic in the UK. I'm sure it's not the only topic limited to the UK, but pricing is a real problem. So actually, if you start to sell on your value, you sell on your strong brand and your reputation and your presence and everything else, you can stop competing on price. You can then sell on the value that you have because you are demonstrating your expertise in market. You can also appeal directly to your ideal clients. Now, if you are a generalist firm, it is incredibly difficult to attract your ideal client because you're generalist. Whereas you start to specialize, or at least focus in on ideal clients that you like working with, you can appeal directly to them through your marketing activity. And that's where the power starts to come in. We'll talk more about that in a minute. It also puts you in control of how you grow your firm, because if you can round down who you want to attract to your firm, you create all your marketing around it, you can then start to be in control of who you're growing your firm in. Referrals are great, but we often get our question is, I've got loads of referrals, it's fantastic, but they're not the clients we want. We want higher value clients. Well, then that's when marketing comes in. Because actually, if you keep doing bookkeeping for everybody, all you're ever going to get is another bookkeeping client. So actually, how do you then get to the next level that you might want to take a £1,000 client and you might want to get a £2,000, £5,000 clients? That is where you've got to have a really strong strategy, an execution plan, and be really clear of where you're going. And that's where marketing can help you do that. And what I've made a note here is actually advisory services are ideally placed to meet these advantages because it is advice. That's what people are looking for. They want your expertise. They want your help. So give it to them through marketing, because it will show them that you are the right firm to choose. So what's the litmus test of a strong brand? It needs to be relevant. And I mean relevant to your target clients. You also need to prove it. Can you back it up with proof? Things like case studies. You've done this stuff before for somebody. Prove it that you have, and it needs to be authentic. As I mentioned earlier, you're going to get found out if it's not authentic. You need to be authentic about it. And actually, being authentic actually means that passion is going to come through as well. And that's going to rub off on your clients, and they're going to see that. So we can come circle back to that in a minute. I just wanted to give you a sense of some data out there as well for if you're not totally au fait with marketing. Search is huge. There's 3.5 billion searches per day, as it says here. That's a lot of searches constantly going on. And if you say to me, oh, I don't think my clients are searching for our types of services, I'd certainly challenge that heavily based on the statistics that are happening here. And what we see from our clients' performance stats, which we've got on the right-hand side of the screen here, you can see that 130% increase in search engine traffic to our clients in the last year. Now that's the pandemic for you. Lots of people are starting to search online, even more so, and they were searching more for accounting services. So we've seen an exceptional increase in search engine traffic from search to our clients' websites. And what we see is actually of those conversions, 65% of their conversions, so i.e. the inquiries coming into our firms, 65% of those come from search. So it's certainly not an area to ignore, and it's quite lucrative if you can get it right. So just on the conversion side of things, we've seen an increase in conversions, so 37% increase in conversions over the last year on our clients' websites. And you can see how it breaks down. So I won't talk about the numbers, but what's interesting here is contact forms are top. So making sure that the contact form is easily accessible and they can get to it through your website. They also like emailing into your firm. So make sure your email is front and center so that they know how to get in and get in contact with you. Certainly on the inquiries, we also find that people go to the directly to the Teams page and start emailing people directly from there as well. So make sure the email is prominent. The other way is downloads. Yes.
Sorry, Mike. I have a quick question for you. You mentioned it a couple of occasions about conversion rate. Could you just clarify exactly what that means?
Yep, thank you for calling that out, Paul. So what I'm talking about is when somebody comes from the offsite activities you do, perhaps it's on social media, perhaps it's on search engines, or you're doing paid adverts. When they come back to your site, the conversion is when they do an action to contact you. So that could be that they phone you, they could email you, they could fill in your contact form. And that is what we track as a conversion. But we also track conversions on downloads. So you might have created guides, a guide to allowable expenses, for example, or how to do these. They're ebooks, they're downloadable assets. You have to fill in your data and you get a download. And we also do that. And that's great for top of the funnel. And as you can see there, we've seen a 36% uplift in downloads over the last year as well. So that's top of the funnel stuff, which is great because that means that people are interested, might not be ready to buy yet, but they're interested. And that's a good thing. And then calling into a firm. Obviously, that's got to be on mobile. So again, if you've got a responsive website, i.e. it responds to different screen sizes, when it's on mobile, please make sure that your phone number is front and center because that's where people want to go. Does that help, Paul?
Very much.
Lovely. So what's the return for getting all this right? Let's think about the ROI, because we deal with accountants day in, day out. You guys love data and you love the return on investment, and we love giving it back to them. So let's talk about this. What we see on average for our clients' marketing activity, they get about just under 600 visits to their website every month. And as I mentioned earlier, they get 22 inquiries. If they buy our websites as well as one of our marketing services, so as in we write the content, we do search engine optimization for them, we do their social work, what you start to see is actually an increase in traffic, 167% in fact in increase in traffic when they take our marketing activity as well as a website, and an 85% increase in inquiries. So if you're looking for a business case for why marketing works or to invest in marketing, here are the statistics. And as I say, I'm not selling you anything today because we don't deal with anything outside of the UK, but these are the things that you can get, and you can get good results if you invest in the right marketing agency. So where do you start? Let's get into the meat now of creating your marketing strategy and plan. Okay. So we talked about this earlier. Who are you trying to attract? So this is where we're going to start off with. Your ideal customers is the area that we're going to focus on. And there's a really good report that updates every year from Salesforce. It's called the State of the Connected Customer Report. So worth Googling that if you've not seen it. It's got some great stats in it. But they found that 76% of customers expect companies to understand their needs and expectations. So we need to make sure that we've covered that off. And then 67% of customers are willing to pay more for a great experience. And that's not just a great experience once they're in the door and paying. That's a great experience during the sales process as well. So we need to meet all those expectations. We need to make sure that we understand them and we give them a great service along the way. here's this emotional connection that I talked about earlier in the brand bit. This is how you start to create your emotional connection. You need to be thinking like them. So understand what they're thinking and feeling all throughout their buyer journey. Okay, so before they make that purchase decision, you need to understand what they care about. You need to also understand what influences them. Who is influencing them? It could be that they've got investors. It could be that they have bought into, or their friends down the pub is a thing that happens in the UK a lot. We get that that thrown at us, but there's lots of different things that are influencing them, investors, business partners, etc. Then it comes to their pain points. What are their fears, their frustrations, and their challenges? Now, this is key when it comes to marketing, because we can market to them to tell them that we can take away those fears, those frustrations, and those challenges. So that's a really important one to write down and understand all those problems. We also want to know what their gains are. What is it that they want? What is the end goal? It's not just getting a tax return. There's lots of things that they want to do as a business. So it's understanding those. So your pains and your gains, you're going to create marketing around those later. You also need to think about, if we talk about great customer service, where you sit. So what I've got here is I've got 4 areas that you could land on. You could have a supplier relationship. It's a basic service that you offer, seen as a bit more of a commodity. There's a limited relationship that you have with clients. That's completely fine. You just need to be the best supplier that you can be, and then know that you're there and deliver on that service expectation. Now, if we go all the way up to the top, which is called Innovator Anticipator here, it's about delivering game-changing value. You're going to be embedded in the business. You're going to be leading change. You're also probably going to be charging more, but what the expectation of customer service is like at that level is going to be significantly different down at the supplier. So you just need to think on these 4 areas where you sit, and then be able to execute on your customer service around that. We also think about niche now, or niche if you're in the US. So it's niching is way in which you can become more attractive to a cohort, group of people. If you are a generalist, you're going to really struggle to get traction. And actually, the misconception of being niche is that you just have to have one sector, and that's not the case. So if you think about niche, you could niche in an area of price, demographics, as I've got here, the quality of what you're offering. Is it tailored, premium, economical? It could be psychographics as well. It could be values and interests. And sometimes we've had firms come to us who only want to work with businesses who do good in the world. You know, that's a great thing to do. So there's things that you can do. And then sectors. You could have a single sector, you could have multiple sectors, but also you could blend them, price, demographics, quality, blend those together. So there's multiple ways to cut this. And there is we've created a downloadable guide actually on how to create personas and how to get these things right. So you could, I'm sure we'll share with that afterwards if you need to do something or an activity around that. We're going to pull it all together in a minute, so don't worry too much. But the summary of this section is you need to know your client. We want to build an emotional connection with them. Service, really important. What is their service expectation? Because we need to meet them, and then we need to think about the niche. How are you going to identify as different to all the others?
So Mike, I have just another question for you. I know that what you've covered thus far, and perhaps for most of the rest of the presentation, you're going to be looking at attracting a certain type of client. Does pretty much the same principles apply to your current client base? I'm just trying to imagine where you're already offering accounts prep, or you're doing the taxes for a particular client, and then you're thinking, you know what, I'd really want to start to offer them some more value-added advisory services, because that's going to be more useful to them, and arguably, and not only that, you perhaps can invoice them more for that kind of service. So does the same principles apply to the current client base that you have?
Absolutely. So your positioning is really important, and the nice thing is you've already got an existing relationship, so it's going to be easier to sell in services to somebody that you've already got an existing relationship with. And also, what I would suggest is if you're starting out on that journey, is to find those early adopters that are going to pay for those services, so you can create proof, you can create case studies and show to those new prospects that you've done it before with somebody else like them. So you could use them as test case and guinea pigs, but you still need to explain to them what you do and demonstrate your value and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, your whole proposition can shift, and it may mean that if you might lose clients because of the proposition change as well. You know, you might go, actually, we really want all the high value. So you might say, these are the clients I don't want anymore. We're going after these. And I only want the clients that I can expand. And unfortunately, those ones are going to have to drop away over time. So it's a strategic decision that you need to make. But marketing can help you with that positioning and show to either your current customers or your prospects how you've changed and what you offer. So yeah, absolutely. So let's bring it together. Got an example here that you see on the screen. So we've got Arushan Dev. So we're going to bring this together. This is a hypothetical personas. Sometimes they're called client avatars. I don't know, Paul, maybe in the States, what do you guys call them?
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, client avatars. So they're fictional representations of a group of people. And what we want to make sure that when we talk about them, we're bringing them to life. We, on this instance, know that they're a family-run business. They're aged between 35 and 65. We've given them a lifetime value, as you can see on the screen here. We know what niche they're in, family-run businesses. We know what the type of service they want as well, which is a strategic partner, so quite high up here. And we know what their turnover is, so we can start to market to them in a data sort of led way. And then we've noted down some challenges and some of their goals. And we've created here a really nice summary that sums up a big challenge that they have. And all this is helpful for marketing. It's also helpful when you bring new people into your firm to show them and say, these are our ideal clients. These are their problems, their challenges, and this is how we help them. What's cool about here on this side, which is the personality scale, is actually knowing how to talk to them. If they're old school, you're going to talk to them very differently to if they're techie. If they're ROI focused or risk focused, again, you're going to talk to them differently. You're going to treat them differently. You might have offer them different services. So all this helps you with is your positioning. If they get finance, great. You could use some jargon. If they need help and they're right at the bottom, dumb it down. So it's just understanding the level of understanding of their personality scale so that you can position your marketing and position how you talk to them. So the rest of this presentation, oh yeah, you can go here if you want. And we've got a guide on buyer personas. So you can create your own Arushan Devs based on the information that's in there. So the buyer journey, how do they make buying decisions? So if you're not familiar with the buyer journey, here's the steps. You got your awareness, you got your evaluation, and then you got your decision phase. Sorry, ignore the software selection bit while that's in there. But the problem identification section is really, I always argue with many firms that actually people don't know what they don't know, even down to doing taxes. It's just they don't know. So don't expect them to know all this stuff. So the problem identification area is they might just not have a clue that they need to do it, even basic as a tax return. So we need to show them that that's something that can be done. Then it's about solution exploration, where they're going to evaluate you and others based on their criteria, and then they're going to make a decision. What's really interesting is there's a report by Gartner that suggests that actually people visit each one of these steps again and again and again. In fact, 79% chance of revisiting that step. Now that is because it's a very complicated process. So you can see it here. This is a really good example of complicated buyer journey, people going all over the shop and perhaps not getting it right. But what they found is actually if you can, as a business, as a firm, align all of these together, they're more likely to not jump back, because actually you're providing all the information they need at every single step. So the problem identification, giving them the solution that they need, you're giving them the requirements, and you're then helping them to select you over others. So they found that if all of these aligned, they didn't go back. They just carried on that journey. And if you can meet all of those expectations, why I said earlier, know their challenges, issues, and pain points and their gains, because that's what's going to happen. That's all they care about all the way through that journey. So we need to meet that expectation. So as you can see, the decision journey is complicated. There is a ton of information. You just think the last time you bought something that you had to do a bit of research on, there's loads out there. There's a whole load of marketing channels as well, and it just becomes information overload. So what we call it, I like to call it, is act as the information connector. So all you need to do is connect. I say all you need to do, sounds simple, doesn't it? All you need to do is connect your content from the buyer journey from the start all the way to the end. And that is about creating a content marketing strategy and a plan aligned to their needs. We're going to talk about that in a minute as well. So you can provide them with things like frameworks, the content, information they need, and any tools that they might need to along the way. Slide's gone a bit funny here. So you need to cut through the noise. What I like about the Gartner report as well as what they said is that helping them to buy isn't a sales problem, it's an information problem, especially on the web. It's unlikely that they're going to talk to you at the very beginning, so you need your marketing and your content to do the talking for you. What I love about this quote here, it says, providing customers with information specifically designed to help them advance their purchase has the single biggest impact on driving deal quality that we've ever documented in all our research. Now, if you know Gartner, they do a lot of research. So that is an incredibly powerful statement to know that actually content is incredibly important, driving the deal quality up. So let's think about what's the goal. Working out what you need to achieve. So you're going to have a business vision, whatever the North Star is, wherever you want to be in 2 to 3 years' time. You need to know what your business goals are going to be, which is in blue. But more importantly, how you're going to get there. Marketing is going to help you to do that, and it needs to align to your business goals. So let's say, for argument's sake, you want to become a £1 million firm by 2024. You need to onboard 96 new clients annually, and you want to increase the annual revenue by X%. That means then when we look at your marketing activity, we know we need to provide you 8 new clients a month. It's going to be worth a certain lifetime value. So that's the LTV there. And then increase by 30% per month. So that might mean that actually we need to increase your inquiries by 30%. We've looked at your data. We've seen how you're performing right now. And we know in order to get to that 8, we need to increase your inquiries from your website to your firm by 30%. So now we've got a tangible goal that we can start to work with. But ultimately, we want more recent devs. So how are we going to do that? We need to reach more of them. So that's your marketing outreach. Search engine marketing, paid media, social media, all the stuff you do away from your website, even the events or anything like that. Then it's about driving them to your website. It's about generating the inquiries. And then once they're in your, from the website into your CRM or whatever you use to track your customer data, you are then converting them into a customer. So let's use some data here. You wanted 8 a month. Great. Well, let's say then, for argument's sake, that, there it is. You tell me that you can convert 80% of customers that come from your website. Perfect. That means your website needs to produce 10 inquiries every month, 10 good inquiries. That means that let's take, for example, an average conversion rate of a website, 2%, more on conversion rates in a minute, but 2% conversion rate, that means you need 500 visits to your website every month in order to hit that target. Now, if you take an average of a conversion rate off your website, 5%, it's quite a scary number, 10,000 a month impressions of all the marketing activity you're doing. That's why people pay for paid media. They do search engine optimization. They do social media. So there's a whole amount of eyeballs that you need to get. You can then start to work on conversion rates, building, if you want a 10% conversion rate there, great. Then you have less impressions every month. But this is on average, I would say, is right. Yes.
Mike, question once again. Sorry to keep chipping in.
Go for it.
The question really is, obviously, a lot of what you're saying here, it seems to presume the existence of a website for the accounting firm. So I take it that is really essential, that every accounting firm at least has a usable website and possibly also some social media presence too.
Absolutely. It needs to have, the website is the foundation for all of this. It's where you're going to do all this outreach activity, but where are you going to bring them back to for them to read the information or to find out more about you? that is where your website comes in, because you need something, a tool. The website is a marketing tool that is going to convert that traffic to house it somewhere. So you might be great on social media and you might be always on there. That's fantastic. But then where are you going to send them to for an inquiry? If you're then wanting to be visible and you want a piece of the pie on search engines that I mentioned earlier, which is certainly advisable from our side of things, you need a decent website. It needs to be optimized for search as well, the website does, in order to start ranking and then get the traffic back to your website. So yeah, you have to have a website in order to do this stuff. Absolutely. And if you're not getting these numbers, that's the point of this exercise, isn't it? It's like, right, working backwards, working with numbers and going, how many visits to the site do I need because I need this many conversions? And you might not be getting that, or you might not have a website at all. But once you spin it up and you start to see the data come through, you'll start to see how far, or the gap, how far you've got to go. Does that help? Does that make sense?
Very much, yes.
Brilliant, thank you. Cool. So I mentioned conversion rates, if you're wondering what those are. So WordStream is a paid media platform and they have really good insight into what happens on pay-per-click. So the little ads that you see in Google at the top when you search. And what they said is, on average of all the marketing outreach that you might do, a 2% average. So roughly of all the volumes and all the exposure you're getting, you might only convert 2% on average. Medium is about 4%, and those top performers are getting about 11%. So hopefully that gives you a good sense of what you need to do, how many eyeballs you need in order to get some conversion for all the activity that you're doing away from your website. Then on websites, we're fortunate enough, as I mentioned earlier, to track all the website activity we do for firms. So these are our own benchmarks. And what we see is, on average, our firms convert 3% of their website traffic. Medium is 6%, and those at higher performing are converting about 9% of their traffic. So those are good averages to work with to lean towards. If you're converting less than 1% of your traffic, you've got a problem with your conversion rate on your website. If you're not getting enough traffic, then you're going to need to up the game on the traffic. So you can start to tweak these things and use marketing to do that. So how can we attract a Russian dev using marketing? Let's go through this process. These chaps have questions. We need help staying on top of money coming in out of our business. There must be an easier way to manage all this. We need help. So they definitely need some assistance. There's lots of things that are going to go beyond in their heads as they go through the buyer journey. Do they understand us? Do they get our challenges? How much is it going to cost? What services are out there? And what advice is out there? All these things are going to fall from their head, but it's not going to fall necessarily randomly. There is a process that they're going to go through. And this is the buyer journey that I mentioned earlier: awareness, consideration, purchase, and retention. So what you do is you map out what you believe your ideal clients are doing along this journey. So in the awareness stage, what are they actually doing? They don't know the answer to their problem yet, so they're likely to be searching, asking their peers, their friends, maybe their business mentor, but they're thinking at the time. This one's saying, I need reliable advice, what solutions are out there, etc. And their pain point is, we need help. Now, at some point, they're going to come across a solution, and in this instance, it's bookkeeping. And it's like, raha, I know now, bookkeeping is what I want. So the consideration and the purchase stage is all going to be geared around bookkeeping. So we can optimize that journey from onward. When you think about content for bookkeeping, because we're going to map that content to the buyer journey in a minute, you need to think about what they're going to look for. They're going to want to know software for bookkeeping. They want to know the services. They're going to want to know all the important prices. They want to know about advice. They're going to want to know all this stuff. And you could write and optimize loads of content around that. But actually, what you want to start looking at is niche content, because they're going to search. If you remember earlier, making that emotional connection with them, helping them understand that you get them and their specific challenges. If you start to write content specifically designed for them, so bookkeeping for family businesses, bookkeeping case studies for family businesses, it shows that you have worked with those types of people before in the past and you have solved their problems. So what we end up doing is mapping that content across the buyer journey. People don't go linear necessarily, so it's a rough guide, but actually this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to go, okay, the content that they need at awareness stage is this, and it's needed in the consideration stage, they need this. Because what you'll end up doing is you can then see your gaps. You might have a load of content at the awareness stage or a load of content at the consideration stage, and then you're missing some content that you need to fill. And if you remember that research earlier from Gartner, you need to make sure that this process is aligned and you're meeting all their needs. So some examples that you might want to think about from a content perspective at the awareness stage could be the ultimate guide to keeping on top of your small business finances. That could be a nice downloadable guide. If you put that behind a data capture form, you can get their information and their data, and you've got them at an early stage in the buyer journey. You could then say the evaluation stage. In this instance, I'm using Bristol, which is local to me. How Bristol-based ABC accounting firm helped XYZ small business get on top of their finances. So it's quite specific. It's a local play this time because I've included Bristol, but also it's about small business and finances. Then at the purchase stage, you might say how, again, the location, Bristol-based firm, helped with the bookkeeping services easy to get set up. So don't hear it from us, hear it from a client. Super easy for us. Don't worry, you can get it done, and this person's already gone through it. It's not you telling them, it's somebody like them telling them. The other thing to start thinking about is building out content for your campaigns as well. So how do you start to do that? What we call in the trade is a cornerstone piece of content. It's a guide. It's a downloadable asset, and in theory, you should have it behind a data capture form so you can get the data. So what you do is you write a number of articles. You're going to write a number of articles that link back to that guide. You're going to link that guide and those articles to your commercial pages, and you're going to write a case study. Now, that's a really nice circle because actually it might all be about a certain bookkeeping, for example. That could be a commercial page about bookkeeping. You're going to write about 2 articles that demonstrate your expertise and authority on the subject. You're going to write a cornerstone piece of content, which is a guide on something that they are pressing and they need. And you're going to back it up with a case study. We've done this before by somebody who looks like you. And then what you can do is start promoting it. Social media. Maybe there's a guest blog post on somebody else's website. Maybe you can create a webinar and event as well that promotes that guide. So that's how you kind of start building up some campaigns and also your authority for certain services or perhaps your advisory services as well. So how am I doing for time, Paul? Because I know I've got a fair bit to get through and I've got this last few bits. Am I okay?
Yeah, I think you're okay, Mike. I mean, obviously, it is important that those that have joined us today have the chance to ask questions, and I think some questions are already coming through, but I think we're on track.
Okay, perfect. You keep me to time. Feel free to tell me to hurry up or slow down. So So what we're going to do here is 7 effective marketing tactics. So if you want to get down to the nitty gritty, these are 7 things that you can go away and do. Establish your firm's character. Understand your vision and your mission and your purpose. I mentioned it earlier at the beginning. It's all about the brand and the proposition, and all of that sort of stuff needs to be there in the first place. You need to clearly communicate that message to the right people. So who do you want to attract? You need to differentiate yourself. And I strongly advocate for specializing and being niche or niche. Please don't think it's just a sector. It's not. It can be many different things, but it needs to have a strong focus and clarity and purpose. And set the right tone of voice. Are you warm and friendly, or are you jokey, or whatever it is you want to be? You've got to be that character, and you're going to be that character online. Create a lead generation focused website. It's really important, if you do want to generate leads from the site, to actually have it optimized for doing so. Many firms create brochure websites and wonder why it's not getting the traction. You need to really have that focus on leading them down the funnel. They visit your website. On that page, what do you want them to do? You want them to contact you. You want to get them to exchange data. There's some purpose you want them to do on that page. So make sure it's clear and it's front and center. We call those clear calls to action. So get in touch, or download this white paper, or whatever it might be that you need them to do. You need to convey your brand in the right way. You need to make clear your proposition. So your proposition needs to be front and center, certainly on your home page. What are you about? And then design that whole website around those ideal clients, their problems, what they care about. It's not about you, it's about them. So don't write about how amazing you are, write about how amazing your clients are and how you've helped them to deliver what they needed to do.
Mike, if you know,
yes.
Mike, if you do know of any great but relatively simple websites of people that you've worked, of firms that you worked with previously, perhaps as we go through the Q&A, you could pop the link in the chat box so that people can see what that might look like. I fully understand if you don't have any to hand, but if you do, it'd be great if you could share them today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll put them in the chat afterwards. I'll pop them in. So yeah, worth assessing your current website now, and does it appeal to your advisory clients? So that's a really good point, because Paul mentioned it earlier. If you are making that shift, how does your site stack up to attract those advisory clients? So you might need to make quite a significant amount of change. Focus on content. Can't underestimate how powerful content is to demonstrate your expertise. It's all there to educate the buyer. They don't know what they don't know. You've got a wealth of experience, so show them. Don't be afraid that you're going to give it all away. If somebody can implement their accounting needs from a blog post, good luck to them. But you are really there to demonstrate your expertise. Some of this stuff's too hard, so they'll read it and go, yeah, I can't do this, but I know this person does know how to do it. It's about informing them, providing value, demonstrate your expertise. And again, everything you write should have a call to action. What is it you want them to do in the middle of reading that piece of content or at the end? So don't be afraid to put a hop-off point in the middle of an article, because all you want them to do is go to your services. They might have had enough, right? That's fine. Get them to the service, or at the bottom of the page, tell them again, you can get this service as well. Leverage social channels. So build your social proof. Lots of firms say to us, especially if they're owner managed, how do I mix myself and my own character with my firm? Which is a really good question. You've got the expertise, you've got a firm, you should be shouting about yourself and how great you are, and the demonstrating your expertise, and also promoting your firm as well, how good your firm is and what you've done to achieve success for clients and all that good stuff. So build your own profile and your brand, because it's about proof and expertise. People buy from people, but also raise your profile of your firm as well, and use your own profile to do so too. You can focus on your clients' needs and certainly celebrate the successes on social media as well, which is good. Build partnerships. Now, I would argue that many firms we talk to they're quite underestimated. They don't really use this very often. We love partnerships. We partner with loads of people that sell to the same type of accountant that we're after, but sell something completely different. But we're in the market together. We might solve the same problem, but we solve it in different ways. And that's really powerful to go out and talk about. So I've partnered with a R&D software provider before. I know how to package, price and promote an R&D service. He's got the packages to sell the service, and we can go out to market and talk about it in different ways, which makes it really powerful. So if you know people who sell to the same people you're after, but have a complementary service, go and talk to them and see if they're up for a partnership. Could just be marketing, could be a commercial partnership, could exchange money for referrals or whatever, but it's really strong. So think about the governing bodies, and I'm not talking about professional bodies, ACCA and all the rest of it. What I'm talking about is actually governing bodies. If you work in construction companies, what governing bodies can you go and partner with to help get in front of more construction companies? That's what I'm talking about there. Same as trade associations. And then also media outlets as well. What media outlets, what trade magazines do have online presence that you can write about on and demonstrate your expertise. Also, what's your social responsibility? This becomes even more important. So millennials, many of them turning sort of 40 this year, they actually value different values, shall I say, from businesses that they do business with than perhaps your more traditional sort of 50, 60, 70-year-olds that have different values. They care about social responsibility. I'm not saying people over 50 don't, so please don't hate me. It's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is they care more than any other cohort of individual about your corporate social responsibility. What are you doing to give back? What other things are you doing beyond just making money? It also will help you attract and retain talent. Because believe it or not, shock horror, not everybody wants to come and make you a millionaire. They want to come and work on something that's going to really excite them. And actually, sometimes it's about your social responsibility and what you're doing. So think about that. Have a cause, have something worthy in society that you're giving back, and be passionate about it. And finally, be consistent. It's not a one-time deal, I'm afraid, marketing. It is a constant thing that you need to do. You need to test, you need to learn, and you need to iterate and keep doing it. Do more of the things that work, stop doing the things that don't work. Or if you tried it ages ago and it didn't work, find out why it didn't and give it another go. Okay, last bit. Bear with me. I know I've talked a lot. We'll get to the questions. So how should we measure attracting it, Marush and Dev? So measurement. So Paul asked a really good question earlier about conversions. So how can you know if you're doing a good job on your website? In the awareness stage, what we're looking at is, are we getting page visits to our website? We get, where are they coming from? Traffic sources, social, all those sorts of things we talked about. Page depth means how many pages are they going into when they view your site? Normally it's about 1.5 to 2 pages, and that's fine. 2 pages is fine, but really, where are they going? How long are they spending on your website? That's the dwell time. So those things are good indications of whether or not you're attracting and keeping people on there. You then want to track the conversion of the awareness to the evaluation, which is actually somebody tapping to call you. So if you're on their mobile, tap the number on your website to call you, submitting a contact form, or emailing into your firm. That's what we're tracking to make sure that the website is performing properly for you. So we talked about this earlier. Visits per month could be 500. You're getting 10 conversions at a 2% conversion rate. So what you need to be looking at, and what we do with our clients, is we track where those conversions have come from. So we know that 5 might have come from a contact form, 2 may have come to tap on a phone, tap to call them, and then there may have been 3 that have sent an email in to a member of staff. But what we're also able to do is analyze where those conversions have come from. So did all of them come from social? Did all of them come from search, for example? And how many pages did they go down, and how long did they spend on the site? It is a game of tracking, and it is a game of understanding it. So conclusion, last bit. Know your clients. Absolutely spend some time writing down who it is you want to go after and who you want to design all your marketing for. You might work with loads of clients, but actually what you're looking for is those that you really, really want to work with. It's not to say you ignore those ones, but those are the ones you're going to build your marketing around. Meet their needs, design around their challenges and their issues, which I talked about earlier. Make sure you know what service level to provide them, because that is incredibly important, even through the buyer journey. And then make sure you measure it. Please measure it. There's many firms that we've come in contact with who just don't measure their marketing, and they tell me it doesn't work, but they don't have a clue. So please measure it before you give it, before you dismiss it. Start measuring it. That's it.
Well, many thanks, Mike. That's a fabulous presentation. It's always a pleasure actually to have somebody other than an accountant talk to us accountants, because oftentimes we really do badly need outside external expertise to point us in the right direction. I think that's what you've done today with marketing and communications. And well, without sort of further ado, what I will now do is hand over to Irina, because Irina is going to lead us through a Q&A session. And we have encouraged you to post the questions in the Q&A or the chat function. If we don't get around to answering them during the course of today, then we'll endeavour to do so after the close of the event. So Irina, over to you.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you, Mike. It was very exciting, very interesting, but also slightly overwhelming. I can imagine accountants, for an accountant, it's not very easy to deal with all of this. So while we are waiting for questions to come in from the audience, my first question will be the following. How do you imagine for small, really small SMPs to handle this marketing endeavor? Should they try to do it themselves? Because obviously it requires a lot of research, a lot of digital skills as well. So should they be looking at their junior associates to do it, or to outsource it to professional marketing firms? So what's your experience and how do you see it? Okay.
Yep, which is a really good question. And I get it. If you are just starting out, budgets are tight. So you do need to be mindful of that. And as you grow, I suppose the ideal scenario is certainly to, if you're starting out, invest in the right time to research. So that's why we provide our own guides, self-help guides to creating buyer personas and buyer journeys and marketing plans and all that sort of stuff. So you can do it yourself if you're kind of budget is quite tight. But what I would suggest doing is again, if budget's tight, perhaps engaging with at least a contractor or a freelancer to start talking to them about marketing. So it's about getting professional help to shortcut some of those mistakes that you're going to make. Because if I started doing accounting tomorrow, I'm definitely going to make loads of mistakes. So it is a point that you go to an expert to ask for assistance and advice, because you want to shortcut that learning and you need to get somewhere. So if you're starting out, find somebody that you can trust and that you like their guidance and you buy into that. But as you grow and you get bigger, I certainly advocate for two things. One is appointing somebody in your firm to own the relationship or own marketing. It's only going to get done if it's owned by someone. And then look at what you need internally. So the beauty about coming to PracticeWeb is I've got 29 people, all of whom care about marketing. You can't buy that in a firm without spending a lot of money. So actually, for the sake of maybe a few hundred or a few £1,000s a month, you're buying all of that expertise, and you're going to get that. And that's probably even less than an employee a month, which is really good. So you could do that. But equally, we work with firms who have marketing managers internally. And what I would say is the mistake that people make is they hire a marketing manager and they think that marketing manager can do everything. They're going to have a specific set of skills, but they're still going to need external support. So make sure you find out what you need that individual to do, and then give them a marketing budget to go and bolster on what else they need. They might be experts in events, but they might not be experts in social media. They might not be an expert in search engine marketing. So you might still need to outsource some of this stuff. It's just working out what's right for you and what budget you have. But whichever way you are, find professional support and help to do it.
Thank you. So actually, my next question was exactly related to the social media. So in our age, what role does the social media play in marketing for specifically accounting and auditing industry? Is it something that could work? Is it something that can really boost sales, or not really?
You cut out a bit there. I couldn't quite hear you, but I think what you're asking me is what the role of social media in marketing. Is that right? Yep. So the role of social media in marketing, it's one of those platforms that we've seen. It's always been around, but there seems to be a real interest from firms right now to really unlock it and understand it, because actually that is, we're all been stuck in our houses and we can't go to networking. So obviously LinkedIn has certainly been the area where a lot of people have started to collaborate. It's an important platform. It's important that you're your authentic self. It's important that you demonstrate your expertise. And if you're the business owner or the partner, you're there also to promote the business and talk about how great and amazing things you're doing within it. But what you need to think about is it is a massive social hub. You don't just walk into an event and start shouting about how great you are. You need to introduce yourself. You need to find connections. You need to start talking. So it's about cultivating relationships online. You can start off by perhaps, these things are quite scary. I get it. Sometimes it's like, oh gosh, I'm going to post out into the world. But start doing it, but also start commenting or liking other people's things, because I bet you if you start commenting on someone's stuff, they're likely to comment back on yours, and then it just starts to snowball and you're just making relationships. And I think that's easier for some than others. Definitely don't look at some people and think, oh my gosh, look at this guru. They're just constantly on there and they're posting these videos and doing, if that's not you, don't be you. Just be you, but do it well and keep plugging away at it. And also, I suppose another thing that I found is not always those people who are going to get in contact you from social media who want to buy from you are going to be necessarily the ones that interact. I've had lots of people that I've connected with, haven't heard from them for 6 months, or even they haven't even liked a post, and then all of a sudden in my direct message they're like, oh, I'm ready to work with you now. So it's just cultivating relationships, and be patient. Please don't send sales messages by direct messaging. Buy my services. It's not going to work. So cultivate relationships. That's the point of social.
May I just have a quick sort of follow-on question in relation to social media? I mean, I personally and professionally are quite involved and active on various platforms, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter are perhaps the top 4. For the purpose of social media for an accounting practice, is there any one of those or another one that you should be most focused on? Which social media platform is the best?
I think that's a really good question, Paul. Just so that people know, I've just chucked a couple of website addresses in the chat as well, if people want to have a look at those. My advice is that you find out where your clients are and then start to be on those social media platforms. It's likely they're on LinkedIn. But what we do see from our statistics that the 2 top social media platforms are, first is Facebook, which I think is interesting, and then it's LinkedIn. We've seen a decline in traffic coming from Twitter back to our clients' websites. So there's less Twitter traffic. So Facebook and LinkedIn seem to be the top 2. Many firms struggle a little bit with Instagram, so it's a bit more, it's picture based. You know, it's not as easy, I suppose, as perhaps some other platforms to demonstrate your expertise. And I have seen a number of clients now firms starting to use TikTok, which I think is an interesting area to explore. If your client base is on there, then fine. If it's not, don't go on there. But yeah, definitely Facebook and LinkedIn. We do find that Facebook advertising and LinkedIn advertising is another traffic driver as well. So you can advertise on those, not just being yourself on there too.
So basically, in a nutshell, it's where you think your target clients are most active, that's where you should be invested. So if they appear to be heavily involved on LinkedIn, then that's where you need to go and have the conversations and promote what you do. Yeah,
Absolutely. I'll pop another website. I've just remembered another one, so let me pop that in there for you as well.
Yeah, thanks for those websites. Obviously, they're all in English, but I think people do get a flavour for what, how they are, certainly visually at least.
Yeah. Yeah, and just to give people context, if they're looking at those links, the first one that I've posted, UK landlord tax, they only deal with property owners. Diamond accountants tend to deal with the restaurant trade, and then Evans and Partners is more kind of manufacturing type businesses. So again, we've all helped them to round down their focus and their niche. They happen to be sector focused, I guess, but they get a lot of traction. UK landlord tax, he gets about 70 to 80 inquiries every month from his website that we work with him. So he's flying. He's got a problem that he's got too much business, which is a nice thing to have.
Thank you, Mike. We do have one question. So while I'm reading this question, I'm also encouraging listeners to post their other questions, and we also have an opportunity to turn on microphones. So feel free to raise your hands. We will turn on your mics, and you will be able to ask your question online. So this is the first question that came in. Does a firm with one certified auditor has any future if it has no chance of adding a certified auditor within the next 3 years? So what would you recommend to such a firm?
What would I recommend to start a firm? Is that the question?
Such a firm that has no possibility, it has only one certified auditor and no possibility, no chance to add other auditors within 3 years.
Well, I suppose from a marketing perspective, if I think about it's about how you would turn that round so that you can grow your business. So the real thing is how can they market themselves to start bringing in clients in to start growing that business in order to recruit more people and to employ more people. So maybe right now it's not about investing in a person, it's about investing in marketing to try and help them grow that business, to then start to be able to invest back in to additional headcount.
Quite a difficult question. I think Mike answered it very, very well. I guess what I would add is that I think there's a lot of interesting case studies around the world of sole practitioners that are highly successful. You don't necessarily need to be of a certain size to be successful. It is quite possible for a sole practitioner to succeed. But obviously, as a sole practitioner, you're going to have to carve out a very relatively narrow niche, I would imagine, because you don't have the bandwidth to offer much a broad bucket of services to a larger client suite. What I would say, though, is that if you look around the world, we have witnessed, I think, over the last 5-10 years, the gradual consolidation in the marketplace. In other words, a number of sole practices, a number of smaller practices have merged with other sole practitioners and practices in order to be able to offer the level of expertise that's expected in the market.
Well, I have another question. So how would you recommend SMPs to find out their niche, to choose their niche? It's not that obvious. Well, family business, yes, but what else can you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. My advice to anybody looking to niche is working out who you really want to work with. So it could be somebody you like working with. That always helps. The types of clients that you like working with, or it could be your most profitable types of clients and you want to grow those and you want to grow your business around those. So I think you've got to look inwards at your business, the types of people you like working with, the profitability, also how your business model is set up. So interestingly, UK landlord tax, one that I posted in there, we did a load of research for them because he recognized the opportunity that he had, but he didn't quite know which landlords to go after. Now, we've helped him to understand that it's accidental landlords and first-time landlords is how best his business is set up. It's all an efficiency thing. There's not a huge amount of advisory and advice going on. It's a bit of a compliance factory in some ways. He's just trying to churn out the tax returns. So actually, we had to round that down to be this type of group of cohorts. Once you started to get to 7 to 10 properties, their complex needs wasn't right for their business. So it's just working that out really and understanding what you need to do or who you enjoy working with, who's the most profitable and how you want to grow your business, who you want to grow your business around.
Yeah, and if I could add to that, if you're already an established practice and let's say you have a lot of expertise in auditing or accounting, prep or tax services, you might want to look at your current client base and say, well, we appear to have a strength and a critical mass in a particular niche area, in a particular industry sector, for example. And then if you feel that is going to be a profitable sector to pursue, and the types of people that you're working with, the kind of clients you're working with are the kind of clients you want to continue working with and you like to have more of them, then maybe that will drive your decision on what kind of niche you ultimately pick up and go for.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I agree with that.
All right. No more questions coming in. Maybe Paul, you want to close the session?
Okay, well, in the absence of any further questions, let me wrap things up. First and foremost, to thank Mike. I think it's been a fascinating conversation today. I think Irina summed it up very well. In that obviously for accountants it is actually quite sort of overwhelming, the whole proposition of marketing and promotion, and I think not least because traditionally accountants have been used to the fact that they've been offering regulated services, and typically the clients come to them they have a need, they have to have it, and therefore it's just a matter of who will you do it for them. Whereas, of course, over the years, as we've seen the emergence of the business advisory activity, you've really practices have to go out there and decide what they want to offer. They have to decide what kind of people they want to offer it to, and then they have to engineer their promotion and marketing around that to make sure that it gets realized. So we've got quite a shift underway, especially in markets such as Georgia, where the business advisory service offering is relatively small at the moment. But if you look around the world, it's that business segment for accountants that is the fastest growing. I think the International Federation of Accountants, for example, relatively recently said that markets like audit, like tax preparation, like accounting services are relatively static. They're not necessarily growing much, but the areas that are growing the fastest is business advisory. And we would imagine that in countries like Georgia, that will also play out in the coming years. And I might add that with the emergence also of sustainability reporting, I think there's going to be an awful lot of clients turning to their accountants and saying, "Is there something here that you can help me with?" So as far as this session, we've recorded the session today, and we will make that available. Saras, the local regulatory body, will post a short article on its website about today's session, together with the link to the presentation. If there are any questions that you wish to raise via email, please do send them our way, and we'll put them in the hands of Mike or myself to answer. In terms of the next webinar, we've not yet scheduled a follow-up webinar to this one. We've to date had 5. I think this is nicely rounded off that first 5 because we talked extensively about the need to build advisory services and capitalize on the digital solutions available to do that. Well, today we've heard from Mike, who's talked to us about how we start to build that business advisory presence by promoting and marketing what we do. In terms of the additional resources, what you will see on this web page is links to the original document in the English language. But if you see in the parentheses, in the brackets, GE, if you click on GE, that will take you to the Georgian translation of this document, and that has been kindly translated for us by the World Bank. So that is the closure for today's session. I thank you all again for joining us, and I thank especially Mike for being with us to share his expertise.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Paul, for joining, and I thank you. I think the listeners, first of all, for bearing with us this time. And I would like to add that we are planning to organize, together with Saras, on Saras' website, the resources. So in case you have missed one of the modules, you will be able to easily access the video recording and all the materials at one place. Thank you, and have a nice rest of the day.